very warm welcome to this session of our Zipinar. This Zipinar has been for a long time now, from 2019. We are extremely, each member of LetUsTalkIt is very proud that from 2019 April till today, apart from holidays, we did not miss a single day. When we say that we keep our commitments to the community, we want to do it. Just not talk about it, but do it. The same way we want our Let Us Talk It is not only talking, but also doing it. This is our way of showing our gratitude to the community by spending our time, energy to get speakers, very prominent speakers, to come on this platform, talk about a particular topic, and then if you're interested, you can get connected with him or her and get the conversation going. So today we have two amazing speakers. The first speaker we have is Colonel Ajay Dabur, and a little background has to be told because he deserves it. He absolutely deserves it. He is Colonel Ajay Dabur. He was commissioned in Indian Army from Indian Military Academy in 1999 and joined an artillery regiment. He was awarded Chief of the Army Staff Commendation Card for Gallantry in Jammu and Kashmir. He is an alumnus of Distinguished Defense Services, and he is presently working as territory manager with Amazon India in Delhi for over a year, wherein he is looking after the last mile operations with a large team. So he has it, the army, the corporate, he has it all. So he must be a person, apart from everything else, a person with a lot of information, and who better than talking about leadership and team building. And seeing him, he's joining in from India. It's 9:30 at night, but look how ready he is for the conversation. He will be talking, and as he just said, that he's ready for taking questions. So if you have one, please unmute or raise your hand, and you can ask question or make it an interview sort of a thing if need be. So absolute honor to have you, Colonel. Over to you.
Thank you, Junal, for a wonderful introduction, and it truly motivates me to share my long journey and experience. And believe you me, all my audience here on the call, it all comes through the experience and nothing from the, I would say, Google or anything. It's all on-hands experience of 21 long years with Indian Army at different positions, different geographies, different roles, and all big teams throughout. I can say that I worked with 10 large plus teams over this last 23 years. After that, getting into corporate and hung my uniform in 2020, got into corporate, and that was a different ball game altogether in terms of the leadership and the management style, and obviously handling and managing your team. So when I look back at my experience and my understanding of the larger gambit of leadership, there are a few, I would say, a lot of things which I feel I must share with the larger community for their benefit. These come from my experience when I joined military, I think 23 years ago. Believe you me, it is a different world altogether. Some of you must be thinking that it may not be relevant to an extent since you are not working with military, or but let me tell you, there are a lot of things, a lot of practices, a lot of culture you develop in yourself, which is equally important and suitable for the corporate world. That is how I want to start it. So when I go through my conversation over the next half an hour or so, I want to bring about what a leader has to imbibe in him over the journey with his team, with his organization, which I learned through the army, obviously. And then I will touch upon how I developed myself beyond that when I got into corporate. So it carries like a flow. So the experience as a leader and also for the team building or managing your team comes in a cumulative way from both the experiences. So that is the starting point where I want to draw the attention. Um, Let me tell you, when you join an organization in military or maybe in corporate, but I'll start with my military experience. Understand that you have some audiences with you, you have a team with you, and they look at you, and it's human, it's but natural. They make perceptions about you. They have some perception about you, and it comes from where their personal experiences. They may have worked with that with a person on this in the similar role, or they had worked with somebody who was in your position before. So they carry perceptions. So what happens when you get along with your team and when you start interacting with your team? It is not a blank white paper in front of you where you're going to write something. They are carrying a lot of perceptions already before about you, and some of the team members may get information about you. So how do you overcome it? How do you start with? The very first thing is quench all the perceptions. Reach out to your team in a transparent and open manner. Tell about yourself. I still do it in corporate world. Whenever I address a group of people or gathering, I always start telling about me, who I am. Don't assume what I am. Don't go by what you have heard, you may have heard. And I'll tell them what I am. Briefly, I'll explain them. So this is something very important as a starting point as a leader, where you don't leave any question of or doubt in your team's mind. So share your important information, important inputs about yourself, and very briefly, which is relevant to your team. That is how it starts. Now you start expecting as a leader that your team has to perform, a team has to show something. They have to show that they are good in some domain, or they have some special skills, they can perform something very well, outstandingly. Sorry, it does not start like that. First, you have to prove yourself. They have to accept you as a leader, as a person whom they can look upon to. May not be at the very beginning part of it professionally, because they may be in that role before that, and they may have on-hand experience better than you. But the point is that they should understand that we are being led by somebody who is an example in himself. So how do you do that? You don't just preach. Leaders just don't preach. They practice it also. So when you speak to your team, it has to come in your actions also. One very small example, you just can't say that somebody has to be in time at the office in the morning, or you should leave in. If you yourself are not coming in time, if you're not maintaining that basic decorum of your office, of your team, you don't expect that. You can't question anyone that why aren't you doing it? So it all starts from you. So the first thing, take care of the perceptions people are already carrying. Just remove them from their mind, and then be something which they can look upon. And it is not very difficult. Let me tell you, don't require any practice for that. You don't require any coaching or training for that. You just be natural self and connect with your team openly and directly. Now, when you're with a team, what happens? They are carrying a lot of experiences where they feel that a situation may develop, or a task may come in a manner which may be challenging or difficult, or maybe very demanding for them. So speak to your team and try, and initially you must develop a positive culture. I used to make a very common statement with the team. We are like a football team. I cannot score a goal till you pass me a ball. So I alone cannot score a goal. So you have to pass me the ball. And how can you pass me a ball? If we play together, if we pass the ball to each other, we share our abilities, our experiences, our efforts together, then only we can score the goal. That's how I begin with my team. And this is very, very important. That's how the culture will come in your team initially. And people will start understanding that they are looking for something good, something positive, something which is going to provide them a platform wherein they can perform to the best of their abilities. That confidence has to be generated in your team, and that each every individual of your team, and that comes from the positivity you create in your environment, in your team. I always encouraged openness in my team. My team members, I tell them to take initiatives. I'll tell you what happened when I took over a very important responsibility of my artillery regiment. Let me tell you, an artillery regiment, for the audience who may not be aware of, comprises of 700 plus professionals, 100 plus vehicles, and many guns. I don't want to mention the exact number here. So you're looking after not a team of 20 or 40 people. It is 700 people who are very well trained in their specific tasks, and you're dealing with them. So when I started with my team, I got all the leaders of these small teams into my office, and we sat down, and then I started speaking to them. I started discussing with them a lot of things. I had prepared my conversation with them. It was not a random talk, obviously. So wherein I told them that apart from many points, the important point which I told that when we are sitting as a group, when we are sitting in the office, when you're sitting in on a round table for a discussion of any agenda, any pointer, feel free to talk, feel free to interact, feel free to question me, feel free to clarify your doubts. Don't hesitate in asking that. I will be judged. If I ask a very silly question, if I ask a question which is not relevant, may not be relevant for some of the audiences here, don't carry those inhibitions with yourself. Just ask any question. And even if I make a statement and you don't find merit in that, don't hesitate telling me on my face that, sir or Ajay, can we do it like this? Won't it be better like that? So I got that initial confidence with my team, but I told them one thing very clearly. If once we have discussed this within our smaller group, or the managers together, or the leaders together, obviously in Army, it was a team of officers of various ranks. Once we have decided on something, then when we are walking out of this room, we are on the same agenda. We are on the same goal. And no point going out and telling somebody that I wanted it like this, but nobody heard me. I wanted it like this, but people don't understand how it has to be done. This could have been done. So don't carry that thing. Whatever you want to thrash it out here. And when you go out in the environment, we meet you with your larger teams, have that faith and confidence in the decision taken by the core group. So this is very, very essential for a leader, that he takes away or sheds away all kind of perceptions or thoughts in the mind of the team members by virtue of whatever they carried in their mind. So this is very, very important. I ensure this thing, and I encourage them to ask questions. Now, when you work, when do you do a mistake, or when do you mess up something? Obviously, when you do something. If you're not doing anything, you're not going to mess up, or you're not going to create a mistake. So mistakes happen when people are working. People are making an endeavor to do something. That time the mistakes happen. And as a leader, have the courage, have the maturity to accept that mistake. This is something very, very important to develop, that confidence and the faith in your team. If a team member feels that he's trying, or he or she is trying something to do, but if he or she, goes wrong somewhere at any point of time, and it is not up to the expectations of the team or the leader or the organization, what will happen? Sorry, don't worry. What is the point of calling it a team if you're not able to deliver, or not able to perform, or not able to do whatever you wanted to do as aligned or tasked to do? We are there to support you. And mistakes will happen if you're working. So this is something, this gives, I'll tell you, this gives a lot of confidence in the team member. They always believe that I'm venturing out into something, I'm going to do something, my team is with me. If not team, my leader, my manager is with me. And believe you me, it may not show the dividends at an early stage, but you create a team which has such a faith in their own team. They feel very, I would say, light-hearted, happy, and to an extent excited to do their work, even if they are venturing out into something new. So this is very, very important. Accept their mistakes. Tell them that, yes, it happens. And whenever mistake happened with my team or any member of my team, I took a part of blame on myself also. Maybe I couldn't provide the right guidance. I didn't select the right person. I didn't provide the right resources. Was the training missing? Was the tools adequate? So I question myself also. So it is not purely a blame game telling somebody that you couldn't do it. So this is something very important. Accept mistakes and encourage them that it happens, and you move on from there to a newer level or a better level. So that is important. And in the same breath, I would like to say that don't judge them. Don't judge them. Because as a human tendency, as a normal tendency, we start judging people. Don't judge them at that point of time. And that is where your maturity is seen, which is seen by the team members. So this is very important. One thing is very important, I realized was very important, which we very commonly used in military: right man for the right job. Identify the right person to perform or execute the right type of work or piece of work or job. Don't try to pick up someone or put into something which he or she is not confident of. I'll tell you what will happen. It'll create a lot of stress on the person. It'll slow down the development of the progress. It'll require more effort. It may require more time to execute for the execution of that task. So as a leader, you should have the understanding of your team members. You should know their capabilities, strengths, and weaknesses. So I'll give a small example. Military, that we have a lot of physical activities involved, and we have a lot of academics involved. A person is supposed to perform physically in terms of running and other physical abilities. The person has to do academic things also, study or train or coach people. So a person, if somebody is very good at running and you deliberately put him or her into the coaching part or the training part, he or she may do it, but not up to the best, or it could have been, which could have been done better in the way. Similarly, vice versa, somebody is very good at academics and you tell that you go for a run and do come back in this much of time. This is the standard way. So there is a basic level which they have to attain at every point. But for the timely and the correct execution of that task, select the right man for the right job. This is very, very important. This is where the leadership comes, where they and for that you have to know your team well. You cannot just go for a hit and trial, or somebody told you something and you started reacting on that. So these are a few things from military which I picked up over last 20 years. One very important thing is, as a leader, you must have the risk-taking ability. You should have the, I would say, stamina of taking some risk. Always step out of your comfort zone. If you feel something is very comfortable, something is happening naturally, it's just flowing, no, sorry, you're missing out something. So you need to be on your toes, on the edge, try to reach out to next level and be out of your comfort zone. So one thing I adopted with my team, there is a common perception in every organization. Oh, for this work, he or she is the best person. Something is coming, okay, go ahead. She will do it or he will do it. And what happens if he or she is not there for next such event? Then you are in a lot of pressure or a lot of stress that because he or she is not there, who's going to do it now? So what I did, I always had a concept of overlapping people. What that means is that a person is expert in something, the other person who is not very good at that, when that person is executing his or her work, I will align that person with that person. And he or she will observe that work being done. On the next subsequent event or next subsequent moment, that the person who has newly learned it will be tasked to do that task independently. While doing independently, the person who has already done it, who is an expert in that domain, will be with her or him to support so that the things don't go out of hand. So one time, the new person learns from the old person. Second time, the new person performs and the old person supports. And the third time, the new person is also equally qualified to do that work. So you have expanded the capabilities of your team by just giving them opportunity, exposure, and overlapping support. So this is something which I followed. And very important thing in our military is there, which in corporate also now they have started following. We call it dual trade training. What does it mean? Briefly, I'll touch upon keeping the aspect of time in mind. I'll just, because I need to speak about the corporate part also. So dual trade is something like a person is expert in something, his domain specialization is something, but he or she should be able to perform the other tasks also. How? Very simple example. We travel in difficult terrains, cross country during nights, and it's very challenging. So that there's a driver who performs this the task of driving. Now the driver says that I can only do the driving part of it. If I park my vehicle, if I wait somewhere, I'm not doing anything. So what I did, I had a radio operator sitting in my vehicle behind, and who is a person who can communicate on a radio set. He knows how to set the radio set, how to put the frequency, how to communicate, what is the call sign, how to respond to a conversation, and how to prepare the radio set, charge the batteries, and get on the right frequency and communicate wherever the leader, the boss or the commander wants to be. So what I did, in the time whenever we got, there was a lean period, everywhere we get some lean period. I told that radio operator, why don't you come on the driver's seat and try driving this vehicle slowly and steadily? We will help you. We will guide you. And we told that driver, please go and sit behind in the vehicle, pick up this radio set. We will tell you how to put the frequency, how to go on the call sign, how to make the communication, and how to maintain this radio set. It starts slowly, but understand, after some training, some passage of time, some hand-holding, you have two people now in your team who can drive also and you can use the radio set also. And vice versa is also true. So it is not that he cannot, so sorry, sir, I can only drive, I cannot use the radio. No, he can do both. So this is something which I developed with my team. And this, we all can do it. As per our organizational or our requirement of our team, we can always identify the people who can pick up something. So this is one example I always give is dual trade training. Towards the military, one thing I would like to touch upon for all the leaders here who are listening me today, that personal touch is something which is very, very essential. When I say personal touch is not getting very personal in the conversation. No, it does not work that way, because every human is a different person. Understand that is that person is getting the right pay and allowances. The HR related, the human resource related aspects have been taken care of. Is his or her leave has been planned? Believe you me, if you are told by your manager or your boss or your leader, you can go on leave next month or this month after 15th, rather than I'll let you know when you can go on leave. See the state of mind the person has. He or she knows after 15th I am going on leave. I can book my tickets, I can travel, I can inform my family. So the leave planning is very, very important. That it is two-way. You also know that person will not be available for this point of time, and that person also knows, okay, after this time I am going on leave, I am having a break. This calms down the nerve of the person to a larger extent. And the moment a person is at peace, he or she can focus on its work. The capability, the efficiency goes up. So this planning part is very, very essential. In the organization, it is HR is doing it. But as a manager, you take the first role in deciding that, planning that, and giving that confidence in the person that please plan your leave, go in time, we will work accordingly. So this is something very important. First, the documentation part, paperwork is very important. Pays and allowances are coming in time or not. There's something not missing. If something is missing, address it and then the leave planning part of it, which is a thing which concerns most of us, path of growth. I know I am in this role from last 2 years. I am in this role from last 7 months. What is there for me in the future? In what time period? What role I am going to assume? Am I going to work in the same office, same team, same role? I'm going to change my role. I'm going to change my geography. I'm going to change my... So that clarity, where does it come from? As a leader, you need to sit and interact with that person. Understand and don't make any false promises. Oh, don't worry, 6 months we are looking for I would say a hike for you or something. No, nothing like that. Make them understand these are the organizational requirements. This is where you fit in. This is where we are, and that is what we can do. So that clarity has to be given. And one last point before I get into the corporate part. There's no harm in understanding a person beyond himself. By that I mean, no harm if you know about the family of that person. Who all are in his or her family. It may be having old parents, or maybe having somebody, a brother who's good in sports or trying to achieve something. Something like, I'm just giving a random example. The point is, don't look at a person only at the face of it. He carries a lot of background along with him. So knowing as a manager, only knowing, not getting into it, only knowing, always develops that bond between the team members. So these are the few things which I experienced through my military career. I learned it from my leaders. I learned from my colleagues. I learned from my juniors. And today I feel very confident that I have such a rich experience from that organization. So I'll take a pause here for a moment. If any questions are there before I move on to the corporate part, which will be comparatively shorter. Obviously, I have worked 21 years with Army and just a year plus with corporate. So that apart from that, I'll cover that also. Any questions in case? Otherwise, I'll continue. Hi, Vipul. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Mr. Ajay. I think those were greater insights. I think I personally believe in this dual role training. That's always been helpful. Not only as a backup, but I think sometimes it gets monotonous, doing the same job again and again, getting into routine and learning the other task or other role. You actually, enjoy it, you learn something new, and, you feel more confident. So yeah, that's a really good point that you brought up.
Thank you, Vipul, for and I tell you, you got the gist of it. You got the right part of it. It is really very interesting. If no more questions, I'll now move on to my corporate world. So interestingly, I after doing a very satisfying tenure or stint with the Army, I commanded an artillery unit. Let me tell the audience on the call that on the meeting that becoming a commanding officer in Indian Army is a big challenge. You have to consistently be on top for 15 years, and then only the few handpicked ones pick up this responsibility, because obviously there's a life of 700 plus people is in your hands. They treat you as father of the regiment, father of they see you as the God to an extent. Some of you must be feeling I'm exaggerating. No, it is not like that. They have that regimentation, that feel, and you are the head of the family. So being very fortunate with that, and it was such a satisfying thing, because my regiment, after my command, generally people command for 2.5 years. I was fortunate to command for 4.5 years. We became one of the best regiments. When I say best administratively, professionally, happiness quotient, accident-free, and best performing overall. So it was very satisfying. As if I felt that I have achieved and there's nothing more for me to achieve. Then Indian Army picked me up to be sent to R-Track. There's a place known as Army Training Command, where the think tanks of Indian Army sit down and conceptualize the training part of Indian Army. So I was part of that, and there the culture is more or less like corporate. You don't put on a uniform, you're dressed like the way I am, and you sit in cubicles like a corporate office and you interact. And there I realized that why not move on from here and step into the corporate role, and why not directly contribute to the larger organization, other organization, or the corporate world. So that's how it started. And I came out when the COVID started. So it was a difficult time. The things were shutting down. There were no hirings, nothing, and I moved out of army. A lot of people told me, why don't you continue for 6 more months? Things may stabilize. I said, no. Since I have taken a call and I have the confidence, I moved out. So I upskilled myself during that period of time. I did a couple of good courses. I picked up, I did an online course from Harvard. I see Shafaq is there. So I'll quickly, another 5 minutes or so. Give me just 5 minutes. I'll just get into the corporate part of it. So when we talk about the corporate, the personal touch which I am talking of generally is comparatively low, lesser. That I'll give a small example that if a colleague in the military wants to go for a loan, a simple house loan or a car loan or something, he will sit and discuss with the team that which loan should I take, how should I. Corporate people, I realize that they are not very comfortable with it. They want to take their own choices. They don't want to involve too many people, especially the team members. So that is where it started, where I realized that every individual is coming from a unique background, be it educational background, be it experience background. So it is a different ball game as compared from the military part of it. Very important for a leader in the corporate world, having a good and strong communication skills. If you can't present yourself well in front of your team, they're not going to accept you. You may be expert in your domain, in your technical or whatever role, but if you are not you are not an effective communicator, your team is not going to move with you. So this is very important. You have to be very strong communicator, and very important that you learn your role, understand the larger business challenges, the operational challenges. And how I approach to it, it is the macro to micro. Understand the larger challenges, the presently and in the future. Then come down to the individual manager's role, his challenges, his struggles, and then work upon that. So this is very, very important. Don't get into micromanagement. You know what happens the moment you start asking those questions in terms of micromanagement and get after your team members to get those specific answers and all that, they create a guard against you. They will not come up with the reason. They will come with a justification. That is not required. This will not bring improvement to the process. This will not bring improvement in the your performance. That micromanagement has to be avoided. Build that culture with your team wherein they can share their challenges, their problems, so that as a team you can work on that. Quickly, a few more points. I'll just wrap up because I think it's time. Don't get into blame game, as I told in the military part also. Whenever there is a failure or there is a miss or there's a gap in the performance, if it is not improving for something, do a RCA. That's what we talk in Amazon, that identify the root cause analysis, do the root cause analysis, dive deep, what all factors led to that situation, why it is not happening the way it's supposed to be. Hear out your team members. Not that, no, I don't want to hear you. I told you it has to be done. Does not work this way. The team will not come up to you with the real and effective solutions. Hear them out, understand, and then filter out the subjectivity from the conversation. They may bring out a lot of personal perceptions and all that. Take it out. Keep the only professional part of it, and then narrow down to the specific action items which you have to work upon. And no action item is an action item until it has a timeline. So have the timeline assigned to that, and the ETA to be done by the person it has to be done, and the way it has to be done. It is very, very important. In my Amazon culture, I learned everything works customer backwards. Customer, when I say customer, your team members are also internal customers, and then your outside customers, external customers. Everything is around your customers. It is very, very important to look after your team, work for your customers. When I say customers, external customers. This is also very, very important. Quickly, I just take another minute, 2:10. I'll wrap up my call. Recognize your team members. Have a periodic reward and recognition program. Go on offsites with them. Talk to them informally. No harm having a WhatsApp group where you can talk other things other than this specific business part only. Obviously, business things can also come in there, but wherein you can share the things that I got late for the office, my car had a problem, there's something where they can share the thing. Have such kind of WhatsApp group. It brings down a lot of pressure the team which is building other ways. So such like things, and do walk the talk. It is never just, or don't just go and sit in front of your colleague or your team member just to ask questions or discuss business. Sometimes walk the talk. Just walk along for the coffee and discuss the casual things, how the weekend, how the things happening. What do you think? I'll tell you, you get the real pulse of your team. So many more points. Keeping the time in mind, I will close in my thoughts. Thank you very much, team, for giving me this opportunity where I could share my experience. And I will be more than happy, glad rather, to be reached out to for anything and which I can contribute in any form. Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Ajay. So I would like to thank everybody who's joined in and asked questions to Mr. Ajay. So we have Shafaq, Coach Shafaq, our next. Shafaq, can you hear us? Hello, Shafaq, can you hear us?
Hi, Vipul. I hope I'm audible this side. I'm Akshay this side.
Hey, Akshay.
Yeah. So meanwhile, I raised my hand in, in the interim to ask a couple of questions from Ajay sir. However, I think that was missed. So if it's the right time, I will just, take a minute, or else, we could move to the next session.
Yeah. You can please go ahead and ask the questions. I think Shafaq has issues with her audio.
Sure. Thanks. Hi, Ajay sir. I am Akshay this side, working with one of the big fours. And so while I understand, the session was majorly for the leaders, but, this is something, as I would like to take your guidance or suggestions upon. Like, I used to work in my previous organization for almost 5 years, in a culture where we had to move to office, on daily basis. That was pre-pandemic. However, moving to a new organization after the pandemic, and especially, working with people whom I have not worked with in their physical presence, what I feel is a lot challenging than, we were thinking of. So what, as an inspirational leader, your suggestions or your guidance would be for me to, cope up with the culture of the company, my team, that relationship bonding, with my peers, my seniors, like the ones I used to had, while interacting with them on daily basis, in their physical presence. So, and what communication tips also you would suggest and guide? Thank you.
Thank you, Akshay, asking that. That's quite a relevant one. I understand that this was not a difficult scenario pre-COVID, but during COVID, when we got into the online meetings and all that, it became further complicated. But one thing, Akshay, is I would, as a leader, I realize that with my team members, it does happen that we are in a kind of an unsaid competition with each other, and we feel that there is this kind of a comparison which is going on whenever we are communicating or when we are sharing any input or making a presentation. The point is you need to develop that confidence on the individual basis, and it will not happen in a group gathering or something. So it is not only that you share the knowledge. People appreciate when you ask them, when you tell them that, yes, this is something which I found interesting, what you told, and how did you get it, and how I can benefit from it. The interest is generated. So this is one simple thing that you generate a two-way communication. You make the other person understand that, yes, you are also, while I'm working, you're also contributing to my work by virtue of your experience and expertise. So that two-way kind of a communication has to be generated. And also bring in the larger goals. Let's not get into the trivial kind of a thing that this week target or we have to achieve this thing. No, the larger goals have to be kept in the mind. And as I said in the beginning, if you don't pass me the ball, I will not be able to score the goal. So that thing has to come from you. And before I conclude, don't expect that everybody will respond to your behavior in a similar manner. Every person is a different person. So you need to moderate your conversation. You need to change your effort. You need to work somewhere aggressively and somewhere it will happen easily. I hope I answered your question. Otherwise, I'm available. We can always communicate. Thank you.
Definitely, Ajay sir. Thank you so much. I think this would really help me. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Okay, Shafaq, can you hear us? Okay.
Yes, now I can hear you. Finally, it took a little while.
Okay, welcome, Shafaq. So, audience, we have Coach Shafaq. She is well known as Mind Coach Shafaq. She has a background in psychology and the founder of the Shafaq Effect. She is also a podcast host, a keynote speaker, and social media influencer. She is a natural empath and development enhancement skill of feeling the other person's energy, and that is through their emotions, verbal and non-verbal behavior, attitudes, and uses this to create a natural way of healing from their foundation, deprogramming and reprogramming their subconscious mind. I think this is her mantra. So she is very popular on different social media platforms, well known as Mind Coach Shafaq. So feel free to connect with her after this particular webinar. So thanks a lot, Shafaq, for taking time out and joining this platform. The platform is all yours, and we have our, I would say, our subconscious minds surrendering to your topic.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for the wonderful introduction, Ravi. I do appreciate. Thank you for inviting me to this panel as well. It's a pleasure doing so. I've actually just come home from work, so I straight went onto the computer, tried to get everything to work. So yes, today's topic, which I found very, very important these days, especially post-pandemic coming on now, it's so important in this time of social media, of this virtual world. That's how I call it. Everyone communicates through their phones, everyone. And the sad thing with that is, which you have maybe also picked up through the media, through the news everywhere, there's a lot of mental health problems rising. And it's not just people who have preconditioning mental health problems. It's also everybody, anybody and everybody is really suffering at the moment, which is actually quite sad to see. But a big part of that, and that's been talked about in the media quite often in the news as well, is the rising concerns of overuse of social media, of texting instead of calling, of sending emojis, sending things which are actually not expressing real emotions. And the reason why I'm saying that is because whatever you put in, you may mean it in a certain way, but it doesn't really come across to the other person in the same way, because he may read out a completely different version of that. And if you look at a book, for instance, everyone who reads a book, it could be exactly the same book, would understand a very different concept of the book. They would feel or pick up on very different elements of the book. And that is exactly how texting works, how social media texting, phone texting, WhatsApping, however you want to use it works. That the other person at the recipient end will always pick up the things to their own understanding. Where if you use verbal communication, that's why I wanted to emphasize on, a lot of people have lost their skills and these skills nowadays. And I always emphasize on not just communication, but use it effectively as verbal communication to talk to each other, to explain and express your emotions, your feelings, what you actually want to state in that point of view. And that has been lost. This is what I wanted to talk to you about. But I like to engage. If anybody followed also my podcast show itself, my channel on YouTube, it's all on the Shafak Effect, which is my brand. You would see that I talk very organically. So as I'm talking, I'm happy to take on questions as they're deriving and arising and coming on, and discuss this matter, because it's very, very serious. Our young generation is suffering with that because they haven't grown up with verbal communication at all. Most of it, how they're communicating is through written communication, texting, emojis. And it's not even complete sentences normal. It's just short abbreviations which they use and various emojis, which is why a lot of things like cyberbullying is on the rise. People are committing suicide as young as 9 years of age, which is quite sad to see, because you would think that a child of 9 years of age wouldn't really have an understanding of cyberbullying, of really heavily used terms to feel this derived that that child has to take their life. We're talking about a society who is enriched with food, who's enriched with materialism, not someone who is deprived from their basic needs. So would anybody like to ask me any questions? That's what I wanted to put across as my introduction in general. And we can discuss this matter if something comes up. How do you feel about that? No questions come up?
Yeah, not yet. No questions yet.
Okay, lovely. So I just continue in general. I mean, we are talking about a global pandemic in general. You know, the pandemic happens. We are generally social beings from nature on, and that's how our biology works. We love to be part of a tribe. So part of my practice is also social psychology. I emphasize on neuroscience, and I also emphasize on social psychology, how people interact with each other and what our actual basic needs are. And if we look back in history, we always wanted to be, as human being, be part of a tribe. Wherever it's nowadays, the tribal kind of existence or terminology changed a little bit, but the actual concept remains the same. So we want to be part of a music group, for instance. We want to be part of a football group. We want to be part of a culture group, of a religious group, of school, of peers, however you want to call it. So social identity is very, very important to us. But during the pandemic, something has happened where I call it the social deprivation of basic human needs, where we have been actually deprived from our social being to live in a very confined space with people 24 hours in very small spaces. We cannot go out. We lost our freedom. We have to be controlled of what we can eat, how much we can eat, how often we can go out, what we can do, who we can talk to, who we can touch, feel, generally express our feelings to. So all these natural needs which a social being should have, we have been deprived from for a very long time, over 2 years. And now most people have to get used to the idea again, which, because we have a short memory as human beings, we forget. How did we actually used to act before? And there you see all this influence coming up with where people just want to go out, don't care about any kind of consequences no more, because they had enough. But at the same time, because we lost our social skills, a lot of people do not know how to talk to each other no more. Especially if you go back, look at the dating scene, for instance, everything has changed. People have no idea about holding a simple conversation to get to know each other, or just to talk about things. How's the weather? How's your day been? You know, all these small talks have gone, which is why I emphasize on verbal communication, because I find talking through your mouth, and I'm talking about in a language which is appropriate to the other person as well, passionately, without being rude about it, expressing your emotions. It's very, very important. And I find it very crucial, which is nowadays really, really lost. If you talk to a child, for instance, which is, you can go back from primary school to secondary school, even at university, a young person, a child, has actually lost the natural communication skills of how to talk to an adult, how to talk to people from different ages. If you approach them, the only thing they know is, oh, I've seen this clip, or I will text you something, or I'll send you an emoji. The verbal expression is just lost. And why is it lost? Because I see so many parents hanging around on their phone while they're walking with their child, instead of focusing on the child during that time. So yes, it's a global, I would say, it's a post-pandemic crisis, which is on the horizon, and it is just not going away. We must emphasize on that. It's not just in the Western world, it's now just globally spread all over, and it's becoming worse. It's becoming worse with all these new things going on, the meta version of the new world, how we deal, how we work from home, which is nice in a way, but if you don't know how to use these things properly, you wouldn't be able to apply them in a way that it's healthy for you. And a lot of people have become addicted and close off in their homes, do not want to be in contact with anybody no more because they don't know how to talk. So this was my, a little introduction about verbal communication, the emphasis on verbal communication, which I wanted to bring today. But as I said, I was hoping there would be some questions in the panel, but everybody seems to be quiet. My question to you would be, what are actually your experiences in general about communication styles? I would just like to know, because I'm really curious about that. Looking at my surroundings, even the clients I work with, people have actually been losing their confidence. I'm building up so many clients from their self-esteem who actually don't know how to approach a person normal. So how do you feel about that? Ravi, would you like to say something?
No comments from my side. I'm just looking for somebody to join in, but I think Indrani wants to say something.
Lovely.
Indrani, do you want to join in?
Yes, hi Ravi. Hi Shafar.
Hello.
Yeah, hi everyone. Actually, since childhood, I was in an environment, grown up in an environment. So
I'm sorry, you're breaking up, Indrani.
okay, am I audible clearly now?
It's better, yes, thank you.
Yeah. So I was grown up in an alone environment since the childhood, since very childhood. You can say that from 3 or 4 years old. So I don't know what's the exact reason of mine, unless until it is, if I feel that is important, then only I'll open up my mouth in front of my colleagues or friends, whatever, whoever they may be. So this is my problem. In normal conversation, I was unable to mingle up with them. Like
Okay.
if suppose if one of my colleague or friend is speaking about their dress, where they bring, where they buy that, how much the cost is, I feel those conversations are not at all important. So my mind says that why should we converse on this? Why should you waste your time? I think this is my problem, a big problem. This is why I'm unable to mingle with the people, or especially in the group.
Right. May I ask you,
How to
have you
overcome
grown up in India, or do you still live in India?
that? Exactly.
Yes.
In
I
India.
mean, that might also be a cultural issue. In general, Indian culture is derived towards a certain roles between genders. The male role is more dominant, who is the man of the house and takes a leadership role. And usually, traditionally, the woman's role is to serve the family and to please everyone. And it is, there are sayings there, traditionally I'm talking about, that a woman should not say more than she needs to say, or she should be saying what is required. So is that maybe linked to your upbringing? Would that be?
No, really. Really sorry. I got my freedom very much from my family members, from my father especially. Yes, I have my complete freedom. Where I can go, I can go. I can mingle up with my friends. I can speak. While even in the relationship also, when there is any get together functions in the family, I was supposed to always be alone by catching my papa's finger, father's fingers. I'll catch my father's finger. I'll be separated from the crowd always, because I
Right.
don't want to mingle with anyone. Yeah, because always feels that I have less communication skills. I can't mingle with the people. This is what always runs in my mind. I'm unable to mingle with any of the crowd.
Okay. So we can rule out the cultural matter, the cultural reasons itself, as you explained just now. Thank you for that. I mean, generally, I would suggest the way how you're explaining it to me, I would assess the situation in a way that you maybe, do you feel you're not able to communicate with these ladies? Because you just also mentioned that when they're communicating about things which are not of your interest or which you don't find valuable, for instance, you don't feel the need to engage in that way. Is that correct, what I'm hearing?
Exactly, Shilpa. Exactly.
So if you don't feel the need to engage in small talk, as we say, then have you tried maybe to engage with people who are of more intellect, who talk about different topics, who talk about different backgrounds of something which is more of your interest?
Exactly. If there is any intellectual person I found, I'll continuously speak with them, no matter how much the time is.
Then that
If I
means
found
that
it.
you don't actually have any difficulties in communicating. You just need the right person and the right concept and topic to talk about.
But that is not the exact definition to become a leader, right? So now I'm in a senior position. After 2 to 3 years after that, I have to be a lead position, and after that some manager position. So I want to achieve my position. I don't want to lose my positions. I have
Right,
to mingle up with everyone. It's not matter of intellectuality or something. I have to be.
right.
Yeah. I have to
Okay,
treat everyone equally, right?
right. Okay.
Yeah.
So have you actually tried, if you're putting the emphasis on your career itself, that you would like to keep your career, have you generally tried to engage in communication topics which are not of your interest at all?
I tried, but more than maximum 5 minutes I can speak.
Right. Okay. So has there been any situation where you were forced to engage for longer than 5 minutes?
No, I definitely quit that place where it is inconvenient for me.
Right. Okay. So my suggestion would be in that way is it comes back to communication skills and actually the I would say the emphasis, what is more important to you? What I'm hearing out is that your career itself, the way how you feel you have to reflect your career, you have to present yourself, is quite important to you. Is that correct?
Yes.
So in that way, you may have to try to make some changes within yourself, although we don't often like everything which we hear or which we maybe practice. But sometimes we have to force ourselves to certain things if we value something else. So because you value your career, you value the position which you have, in which you feel you have to reflect and you have to actually present yourself in a certain way without losing yourself. You're actually just adding something to that attitude to please a wider audience. Do you understand where I'm coming from?
Not completely, I'm sorry.
So let's say if I'm talking to a child, for instance, a 5-year-old child, and that child just wants to maybe play on a tree. I'm maybe not particularly interested in that. So if I don't play with that child, but I have to look after that child. So I'm looking after that child. I'm responsible for that child. I'm not really interested in playing with that child while he wants to play in the trees. So I'm just engaging for a little bit and I'm leaving the child after 5 minutes and then walk away. How would you feel the child, how do you think the child from their perspective would feel?
If she cares about you, then definitely she feels, oh, my mom, I mean, she's not caring about me. She may feel bad in a word to say, or if she's not caring about someone watching or not watching, she'll simply play and enjoy her game.
Yes, but the point which I'm trying to make is that you are responsible for the child. I mean, it's just a simple sample. And you are caring for the child at that time, not being a parent, just to take care for the child. And you're spending the time while you're caring with the child together. But because you cannot engage or you do not find it interesting enough to engage with the child, what the child wants, you're then coming away from the child and distancing yourself. So at that time, you have the concept, the point which I'm trying to make is that sometimes we do things even if we don't love them.
Avoidance.
Yes, absolutely. So if I was, for instance, to engage with a child to play hide and seek instead of playing on the tree, do you think that would work?
Definitely.
So I found an alternative which may be something I could do and I could engage with without forcing myself to do something which I don't want to do at all.
Yeah, you're on the right point.
So if you're maybe finding something with these ladies, to find a common ground where you would not completely change from your actual interest itself, but actually then could invite these people to engage with you as well, that might be a good solution to communicate. It's a different kind of style which you're communicating, but it works because it's not 100% you, but it's not 100% them neither. So you meet in a middle ground.
But I tried this example with my colleagues and friends many times. I started when they in the middle of some other conversation, I tried to pull their conversation towards me. Like if I suddenly start speaking about any subject related thing or general knowledge related things which is currently going on in the world or in the country, so suddenly if I started conversing on those things, they will get disinteract with this my thoughts and my words.
And the reason for that could also be that they may not understand the depth of what you are talking about.
No,
So
maybe, but only for 5 minutes or more than 5 minutes, I can't engage them in my conversation.
Right. So
Yeah.
what I was trying to say is, because what you're stating is you're trying to engage them in your own conversation, but the sample which I gave about the child was to find a common ground which may work for you as well as the child. I mean, we're coming away from the topic a little bit now, but just to summarize, that you may find something or try to find something which you could actually engage with these ladies without focusing too much on what you usually talk about, what you usually like to engage.
I usually like to speak about old news or my profession is software engineer. So I want to speak about innovations in the coding or
Right.
the new software versions, or else I can speak about,
Yeah, but that might be too complex for these ladies to talk about. So what I'm trying to say is, if they're just having a little small talk and you don't really like to talk about how their clothes look like or what they're eating, for instance, maybe you could engage a little bit of your software background, of your intellectual background within their topic, because that would actually then provoke interest from you in this topic as well. And they could also be stimulated to slightly more intellect conversation without actually coming away from the topic.
how can I indulge my thoughts in their conversations? Because these are two different platforms, right?
For instance, if they're talking about clothing, I mean, I can't suggest anything because I don't know your background completely, but if they're talking about clothing, for instance, you could talk about digital printing of clothing. You know, that might interest them, different designs of that. So if you keep the conversation close by to what is actually happening at that time, if you want to engage with them, then that might be a solution.
That's wonderful, Shafak. That's wonderful.
You're very welcome. So coming back to my topic, yes, I mean, we're talking about verbal communication, even though I came off the point with this topic itself, but it is part of our communication style, which is very, very important nowadays. You know, we lose actually the sense of how to engage with the other person. And that goes both ways. Sometimes we just have to make the effort, like I was talking to Indrani about it, where we would have to make the effort if it's important enough for us, like she wants to keep her position and she wants to actually show the staff that she's worthy of this position. So she needs to hold a certain representative position itself to engage with people. It's the same way how I was talking about the lost communication style in this generation, and even our generation older than that people have lost these skills, and they are lost because of the societal impact, which the environmental impact, which it had on us over the years. And it has been increased through social media. It has been increased through the excessive exposure of media itself, wherever it's television, wherever it's mass entertaining, wherever it's the phones, wherever it's anything digital itself, video games. You know, you have children who actually only talk to their friends nowadays. There's no play dates no more. Through Xbox, they talk through their PlayStations while they're actually playing these games. So there's no natural communication without all these elements having to be included. And on a long-term basis, it will have adverse effects. I can already see that. I mean, by the rising number of mental health in young people especially. and in children who actually are growing up, their brain is not as developed, their lobes are not as developed to understand what is happening with them when you're exposed too much towards all this digital world, because you're actually losing your natural skills. You don't know how to actually just ask somebody, how are you? Hello, I would like to meet you. I would like to talk to you. How are you feeling today? Have you had enough sleep? Have you eaten today? You know, all these little small talks have been actually lost. And this is quite concerning to see nowadays. Because if I talk to people, people always emphasize or feel that I have a lot of confidence. Yes, I do. I had to build up my confidence, which came over experiences. But they do look up at me emphasizing this, because my clips are all about motivational clips. They're all about positivity. They're all about increasing your self-esteem. They're all about rediscovering your actual self, because we've been influenced by all these factors. When we were growing up in the 70s, 80s, 60s, at that time, the influences which we had to be conditioned by all these outside factors were our homes, our caregivers, our schools, environment, educational system, cultural system. But now, to the added pressure, the digital world just takes it to a totally different level, because there is no guidance there. No one actually who can actually keep an eye on which path we're going to, how we're actually developing. And especially if you look at a very young child's brain, they just they just go or follow a path which they find exciting, interesting initially, without actually knowing whether this is good for them. And yes, if we go back to my topic itself, I find all these natural skills have been mainly lost. And people, which is why if you look at the things which are now reflecting about toxic femininity or feminism, not femininity, I have to correct myself, feminism, which has actually been taken out completely out of context, to my opinion. Don't get me wrong. I personally believe what God has given us, the natural masculinity and natural femininity, we should be celebrating that. And because people are scared and have lost their identity itself, they don't even know what we actually are, or who we are, what we like, what we don't like, how we can talk, how we don't talk. We have lost these skills within this new era of creating changes, which was necessary, but it has actually lost its concept, its essence itself. And out of this, a huge consequential issue which we can see is the lost communication style. You know, people don't talk, unfortunately. A majority of people don't engage in heated conversations even. We don't do that normal. We don't have debates anymore because we get offended by everything and anything without actually understanding, okay, I didn't like that. Let us talk about it. What did you actually mean? Why don't we have these conversations? Because people are scared. They don't know how to engage normal. They've lost their natural skills. Anybody else with questions? Everyone has become quiet. Would you like to say something, Ravi?
No, Shubha. I'm really, glad that you could, answer, and, during the webinar, instead of, being it a one-way webinar, you've addressed her concern and then, listen to what she is looking for. That was quite interesting. So thank you for doing that.
You're very welcome. I mean, would you like to ask anything? Is there anything which you picked up on this topic which maybe come across? I mean, how do you feel about this verbal communication?
Yeah, managing team members, I think, we relate to every example which you shared, managing multiple team members, managing multiple mindsets. But I think, some of the audience here who are individual contributors who might, for them, this might be like a suggestion, a quick, tip that you're giving, and then they will only learn it once they start managing the team members.
Yes, I think the main point which I'm trying to make is when you have someone just talking, we absorb a lot of things, but at the same time, we have to process them as well. And the best way to process things, which I've worked with my clients intensively together, is when you start asking questions, when you start engaging, which is why I'm asking the audience here, the panelists, these questions, because a lot of the times when we go away, we find things maybe fascinating. Oh, this was fantastic. Shafak said so many points. But if you wanted to reiterate what I have actually said after an hour, 2 hours, maybe a day, you may only remember half of the things, because our brain, our short-term memory, cannot actually retain things long enough for various reasons if we do not question them, if we do not actually emphasize on certain things. And that is the reason why I do engage with my audience, to ask them, what would you like to know? Because this is the way to understand and retain these information in a much better way, and then take them into your long-term memory rather than leaving them in your short-term memory, which will be lost at some point.
Thank you. So
would you agree with that?
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm like curious if I'm just looking if there are any questions, but I'll have a lot of questions from my end. So Shafiq, what is the biggest challenge you see as a barrier from your clients? So I'm sure you would have come across different mindsets. So who are, your tough clients, or, what is a tough challenge where people are like rigid to change, or, they really don't, accept stuff?
That's a very good question, Ravi. Very good question, actually. The main difficulty to break is, first of all, you have to be willing to make a change. Otherwise, people don't come to me. That's the first step someone has to be willing to do, that they acknowledge something is wrong, they're struggling with something, and are willing to change. So that's the first step. What I also do is to facilitate this conversation, that I actually encourage them with this, and I actually applaud them for their first step, which then in reverse actually kinds of gives them a little feedback, a little encouragement of continuing to the second step. So the biggest challenge, which I often see, is once they reach that point, is excuses about their struggles. So the clients would find excuses about, and would find all sorts of excuses about why they have these struggles, why these struggles are justified, and why they cannot move on. So that is usually my thing to pass.
Yeah.
I'm guessing in your position, you may have come across these things very often.
Yeah, quite often.
So yes, that's the biggest challenge to pass, to make the client first of all understand that the struggles that are coming to me is something they want to change. And if they want to change, and if they require this change, they acknowledge this change, then all these different excuses why changes are not happening need to come aside, and we need to reflect at them from a different angle, from a different point of view, without actually bringing them forward and putting them in front of your struggles.
Got it. Yeah. Thank you, Shafiq. I think in the interest of time, we can conclude this particular session, but lovely conversation. I think we should repeat this session and ask all our employees to join once, and then see if they have specific questions or challenges which are hindering their life or their career. I think that should be really useful. But awesome. I personally enjoyed this particular session, so thanks a lot for joining here. And
you're very welcome, and thank you for inviting me again.
Your voice was breaking, Shafiq.
Oh,
Can you
I'm
repeat?
sorry. I said thank you for inviting me again.
Most welcome. It's an honor having you here, Shafiq, and thank you, audience. Thanks a lot for joining this particular webinar. And yeah, do ask any questions, and feel free to connect with Shafiq. And yeah, Indrani has something to say.
Shafiq, is there any way to attract the audience with our communication? Is there any particular way exists?
Yes. I mean, it comes away from my topic, but it's also got to do with verbal and non-verbal behavioral attitudes, because being very much dedicated into social psychology as well, your behavioral attitudes, your body language is very important. So your non-verbal behavior is very, very important. The way how you engage, the way how you look at your audience or the other person, the way how your facial expression is, and your body language is, with your arms, with your hands, with your entire self, that actually creates, I would say, 10 to 20% of your engagement already. So you can win the other person over, whatever you would like to come across with your body language, your facial expression, your nonverbal behavior.
So nonverbal behavior is one choice, and another one is, you said that asking questions to the audience. This is the second one, so that we can inject something into their mind which they can think after this session. So
Absolutely.
These are the two ways can help us for 50 to 60% at least.
Absolutely, it does. I mean, the first of all is your nonverbal behavior, which is very, very important, because people pick up on the other person's expressions. It's just our natural way. We pick up on facial expressions, we pick up on our smiles, we pick up on our eyes, we pick up on how people actually show interest in you. We pick up on our hands, on our arms, on our body language. All these elements itself are very, very important in drawing the audience towards you.
Okay, what about this online session? What about this online webinars?
Okay, so if you look at my presentation just now, how do you find me?
It's absolutely, you're looking very beautiful, first of all.
Thank you.
Second thing, I like your intellectual answers, and you're really, I have to say very much thank you to everyone having this chance to speak with you. And while after coming to you, your body language, your way of expression, your smiling, your eyebrows, up and down while speaking, you are just shading your head here and there, and even the way you are thinking while conversation with us, we are clearly able to see all those things. The interest, how much interest you are showing in this conversation while speaking with us, everything is really lovable. Okay,
that's wonderful. Did that answer your question?
But in some webinars, we can't show our face. We just have to, lead that conversation only through our communication skill.
That's right. That's right. I mean, if it's audio, for instance, audio presentation, it
Yes,
depends
in
on
some
your tone.
client calls will be like only on communication, not any.
That's right. That's
no
right.
image.
That's right. So communication also are about audio. Just by listening with your senses and feeling them, and that is how you engage with your tone of voice. Depending on the topic as well, with the passion you show, it should come across while you're talking. I've heard from my clients many times, not just clients, also my audience on my social media platforms. They have requested so many times that I should actually record audio clips and put them on Spotify because they find my voice comforting. And that is a very lovely compliment to receive. The way how you engage is very important. So it also then comes down to your tone, your engagement, your voice itself, the way how you express certain terms, the way how you express certain words, the way how you actually respond to the other person as well. There's so many ways how you can draw the audience towards you and create a huge influence and impact on them.
So you were saying in non-audible, in only audible webinars or sessions, I have to tone this session with my tone, sweet tone.
Yes, it's
have
not
to
just the
expand.
sweet tone. It's not just the sweet tone. It's about what the topic is about and how, I would say, when you're talking to a friend and you're really interested, that's how I talk in general, even in my podcast, rather than asking very, very robotic questions. Forget the robotic way of talking. Engage in a very fluent manner. So you're engaging with someone you would love to talk to.
Okay, in-depth conversation.
That's right. Even if it's not in depth, but make it sound like it is.
Okay. But so at some certain point of time, we have to show bossiness also in the call while speaking. So it should not interrupt others' feelings and others' self-respect. So
you mean to feel away or to feel mistaken?
Yeah, sometimes we want to say what we want to say, it may hurt others.
Right.
Because of our bossy nature. That was unexpectedly it comes, sometimes. So naturally, because of interest, we are speaking on that. But the other people, few people, not all I'm saying, few people may understood, oh, she's showing this bossy nature always. So how to overcome this? Yeah.
It's about being observant of the other person. So you have to be consciously mindful that the other person is an individual themselves. They're not you. So they also have their own emotions. They also have their own understanding, thought process. So once you internalize that, then you start engaging in a very different way. So rather than just coming from the point of view, this is my view, this is my point of view, and that is how I want to come across, you will then think in collective way. Means you don't just think from your own mind, you adopt the other person's mind and engage with them collectively.
Oh, okay. I have to just keep my ideas on the plate. It's their interest to pick it up or not. I have to give them the chance, right?
That's right. Absolutely. It's not just putting your ideas away. It's not just putting your own interest away. It's about adding the other person's interest towards yours and creating a dialogue rather than just a one-way conversation.
Any example?
So it would be when you're talking to somebody about any kind of topic, you start assessing their way of talking. So what I, for instance, do is if I'm talking to a client, even on the phone, I assess the tone of that client, I assess the understanding of that client very quickly. I assess their way of engaging with me and adopt certain things to comfort them. Not that I have to change myself, but just initially to facilitate a conversation and dialogue, I adopt their way of talking. So if they're maybe a bit shy, I would become warm. If they're maybe a bit formal, I would then put out open-ended questions to make them talk.
Okay, I have to be convenient for everyone. This is what
That's
I have
right.
to remember. Yes,
That's right,
thank
especially
you so
when
much.
you're engaging in a dialogue, because within that dialogue, once they feel comfortable, and this happens very quickly within the first 5-10 minutes, or even 1 minute, not even 1 minute, you can then start drawing them towards your own topic, not in a way that it becomes very apparent, but in a way that you can actually guide them towards what you actually wanted to talk about.
Okay, okay. Thanks a lot. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Was that helpful?
Very helpful.
Lovely. I'm glad to hear
And
that.
I'll start to apply all these things in my daily life. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Shivak, thanks a lot for addressing Indrani's question so patiently, and I'm sure there was one big impact during this particular session for Indrani. So thanks a lot again. Thank you, audience, for joining in. So we conclude this webinar today. I think this was one of the most fruitful webinars we had till date. So thank you, Shafaq, for taking time out and being very patient, and have a great day. We'll connect.
You're very welcome. Thank you very much. Could I just ask you, is it possible to get the audio from that?
Yes.
Or even the video would be fine if it's okay to share.
Yeah. So it's available on our YouTube channel, LetUsTalkIt. So yeah, I'll ask Phil to coordinate and share those details with you.
That's wonderful. Thank you very much. I would like to share some of the things on my social media as well, if that's okay.
Yes, please do.
That's wonderful. Thank you very much for inviting me again.
Thank you, Shafaq. Thank you, audience. Have a great evening.